How's everybody doing?
Good. Great video, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Eric, how are you?
Not bad. Just finished my first day of training for the online school.
And I assume that was virtual?
It was not, actually.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
They got a lot of space there at the Lincoln Center, so it's spread out quite a bit.
How many days of training do you have, or hours, or however it's compartmentalized?
Three days initially.
Eric, are you prepared to start the meeting? Because Brandino, I think, is going to log in sometime between 4:45 and 5.
Okay. I can do that. Just
Okay.
a second. Yeah, I didn't realize he was on.
Oh, you weren't inclined, and I apologize. I thought you were included in that email.
If it came in today, I may have missed it. So
okay, it did. Came in early, sometime between 10 and 12.
Yeah, I just haven't had a chance to check email during the day. So. But that's fine. We can. Well, it's already after 4 o'clock, so we can call the meeting to order, and we will start by taking the Pledge of Allegiance. So please rise with me and do that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Director Pickens, probably need a roll call, please.
Yep. Let's go Director Jeffries.
I'm here.
Director Koo.
Good evening.
Director Stauffer.
Yes, hello.
Okay. 4 of us here, and we'll wait for Mr. Gibson to take over when he gets here. Virtual guidelines, safety protocol. So safety protocol doesn't really apply, but no public comments will be accepted. Just please ask participants keep your microphone muted and disable your video. That helps with bandwidth. And just so you know, this meeting will be recorded. And Director Koo, would you mind reading our vision and mission statement for us?
Sure, you got it, boss. Vision is our community inspires and prepares each student to thrive. Our mission, in connection with our community, the Sequim School District, empowers staff to inspire hope and provide flexible, innovative learning opportunities in a safe and respectful environment so each student thrives.
Thank you, Director Koo. And that brings us to our next spot, which is the board goals.
Director Pickens, what I would like to do prior to the board goals is have, and by brief, I would say 2-3 minutes for each board member to give me some feedback about our reopening plans, what you've heard from community members, and what are some issues we need to address, if that would be possible.
Yeah, I think that's certainly appropriate given where things are at. So, yeah, let's just a few minutes. Why don't we start with Director Jeffries?
Okay. Well, really, I've only gotten a couple of comments. One that was sent, or two, I think, that maybe were sent to the school board in general, and another one that was sent by messenger. But just those three comments, all expressing concern about what are we doing, where are we going, how come we haven't heard more information. But just those three. And of course, I've been keeping a close eye on the county counts and from the public health and from the Department of Health on our status as far as the COVID. And other than that, I've been attending some other webinars and on continuing issues and concerns that are going to face the school board regardless of what the COVID crisis is. But not a great deal of feedback on my part. And I liked the video. I was very impressed. Good job. And I hope we'll get more like that, because I think communication is the key to let parents and community and students know what we're doing. And so I appreciate that. And kudos to Megan and her staff for putting together this most recent video.
All right, thank you.
I'll talk about future videos to come in a minute.
Sure, thank you. Director Koo?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I've had some good discussions with educators since our meeting. Gosh, I guess that was only a week ago. And that included some from across the state. And these are just, personal relationships. We all know a dozen teachers. And in general, I think there's a concern about readiness. That's a common theme of, staff, students, parents alike being equipped and ready for this mostly online interface. Specifically for SQUIM, I think I received most of the same messages that Larry referenced, and they were critical in nature or just in concerns. I think readiness was the theme with most of them as well, of making sure folks, had time to prepare, understood the systems. I believe that technology has been, I don't know if an elephant in the room is the right way to put it, but it's been a challenge in the district, or a perceived challenge at least, since I came on the board. And so that theme has carried through. And that's certainly not to discredit everything that your team has been working on, Rob, to get things better and improved. And I know that's the case. So please take that as more of a timeless statement than anything of late. But it does remain a concern with the heavy focus on technology as we come forward. And then I think, a good question that was raised by one of the educators I spoke with had to do with that blended approach and not knowing, well, gosh, is my workload going to double because I'm going to be teaching in person, hopefully, for a handful of students at a period of time, and then also managing the online portfolio, if you will. So I think concern abounds. Widespread and increased communication is certainly going to offset that anxiety. Prophesize, there's the word. Before this, that obviously no matter what decision we made, it's not going to be the right one. It certainly feels that way. I don't think anyone's come up and, patted me on the back and said, hey, you guys picked the great, decision. But I fully defend the decision we made as a board. I'm grateful it was unanimous. And I think we're heading in the right direction, but it's just acknowledging that, there's, pretty strong split amongst parents on the whole, not entirely, but, one side is wanting, completely online. Another side is, I think, really anxious to get their students back, to school as best as possible, which we know is premature. So that's the feedback I've been hearing. Specifically with you, Rob, I really commend that video. I think that was well done, and it sounds like I was right to assume that was some of Mrs. Like's handiwork there. I thought it was very polished. As a side note, I do have school district swag envy. So if a store ever comes online, let me know. But I thought that was well done. More of that will be good. And anything I or we can do as a board to support you in that effort, look forward to doing.
All right. Thank you, Director Koo. How about Director Stoffer?
Yes, hi, thank you. I believe that the general feedback has been mostly positive. There are some concerns, and some of the concerns actually go back into when we initially had the shutdown. And I think I mentioned it about outreach from one of our buildings, and I'll say specifically the high school. It seems that our elementary, middle school, OPA, they are doing extremely well, but it seems a lot of the negative feedback is coming from outreach at the high school level. So whatever we can do to increase that, increase that connection, I think would be excellent. It's always going to be a communication challenge anyway, but I applaud the work that has been going on with our communication staff and the new superintendent. I got some reviews back on the video that was just posted this morning. A retired teacher that's also on the League of Women Voters applauded our reopening plan, and then also noted, and I'm quoting from her, as she says, "I don't know any other district that has considered the special education population and how they learn differently. And I appreciate Swim School District's approach on that particular challenge." And I've been seeing some positive things from the community overall, and I think it just continually speaks to that outreach and staying on point with the message. I was on a couple of other conference calls this morning with WASDA colleagues, and all similar messages as we're all trying to navigate through these. And I also appreciate the direct connection with our County Board of Health, because that's where it's at right there, because they're the ones that are telling us what we can and cannot do, and we have to be in alignment on there. And it is hard to understand, but I think our task force did a great job at identifying those safety concerns and how we can move forward. So that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Stoffer. And I guess from my perspective, I echo some of the other things that were said already. I think there are some concerns I'm hearing just about preparedness and if we're ready. So I think that should continue to be a big priority. Definitely have received some feedback of concerns. I think technology has come up, and just the robustness of our plans moving forward, that we definitely want it to be different than it was in the spring. And I do have, since the governor's announcement with some new guidelines in place, I think perhaps we should also take a look at our plan to see if we're still in line with that as well. I know on a lot of aspects we seem to be, but I'm not sure about the aspects that involve 6th grade and 9th grade, if we're still in line, if we're not in line. So I think that's something to take a look at, particularly from a liability perspective. And I also do have some concerns about, if we're basing decisions off of the most accurate data. I know, I believe that there's been at least 43 cases in Clallam County over the last 2 weeks. So, I mean, just even using some basic math, I know things are really slow to update, but if we're using that cases per 100,000, and we know Clallam County has less than 100,000, I think 70, 80,000, or give or take, not exact numbers, but you can kind of do the math on that to say we're even well over 40 per 100,000. And so I have concerns over the data, but more importantly, concerns over how quick that that number seems to be increasing. I wish we could get some more real-time data on it, but I think I do have some concerns in that regard, and I think we should monitor that very closely, just to make sure that our plan is still headed the right direction. He also received some similar feedback to what Director Stauffer mentioned about making sure our most vulnerable students, those with those IEPs where needs can't be met virtually, some positive feedback there, and I think that's well received. But I think at the same time we do need to be very cautious, because there are some safety concerns that we need to make sure are implemented, because especially with, in particular, some of those students have some additional safety concerns that we need to make sure that are addressed to protect both them as well as our staff. So I think that covers it for me, and I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Clark.
I would say similar. I received similar responses. I think there is, some concern about readiness. I think there's a little bit of confusion on the stagger and how that's going to be brought into nature. And I also think, and I believe Director Stauffer's the one who brought this up, probably the biggest thing that I've heard is the remote virtual education needs to be 200 to 300% better than last year. And that hopefully the district is ratcheted up. Part of that is technology. Part of that is one learning management system throughout the district. And I know Jennifer Mon, our assistant superintendent, and her crew have been working diligently throughout the summer to make sure it's a better product than it was last spring. We're going to be spending time over the next few weeks. Some teachers have voluntarily taken workshops and done some things. So I'm looking forward to the implementation of that. And my response to the concern about readiness is that I share the concern. And I think that's why we have, and we're organizing this, and I'm going to call it a limited start, where we start out with just a few students and we make sure we have things, all our ducks in a row, ready to go. We meet the protocols. We meet the safety and health concerns of whether they be special needs children, whether it be children without internet, and that we can step up and every rotation or every stagger along the way, we're up to the challenge. And as time goes on and as things clarify, there does need to be a level of specificity that hasn't been articulated at this point, and that will continue to happen. I think there's one other thing that I want to be very clear on, and you touched this briefly, Director Pickens, and that is we have to pay attention continually to the data. And the data we receive has approximately a 4-day lag. And I don't think we can increase, can we get data any quicker than that? And I think the answer to that is no. But a 4-day lag gives us, at least a pretty good idea. I think in response to what you said earlier, I believe we're in the high 40s, if not low 50s, because of the number of cases we've had over the last 7 to 10 days. So, and that data is based on a 14-day benchmark. So right now our numbers will go up, high 40s, low 50s. So we're still in the medium risk range, and we still can do some things on site with students. But I sent you, and I don't know if any of you got a chance to read the letter from our insurance company on Friday. And I'll talk a little bit about South Kitsap when this is all over with. But in short, if you're under 25 cases per 100,000, you can do a lot of in-person learning. If you're between 25 and 75, you can do some in-person learning, but it has to be limited to those children who are away from educational justice, those students with disabilities, McKinney-Vento students, foster children, those type of students. And you can have limited brick and mortar presence. Above 75 students per 100,000, you can't have any students on campus. And when I say any, I don't know that absolutely means none, but it means extremely few. And by that I mean less than 5, because there could be, and I won't get into that. But what the insurance company said flat out was that if the school district does not follow the recommendations of the Department of Health in their county, you're on your own. The insurance company will not insure you. So if you saw South Kitsap, I can't tell you if it was Wednesday or Thursday of last week, they did not accept the superintendent's recommendation to go 100% remote. They voted 3-2 to go to a hybrid. And that's where that determination by the insurance company came out. And as we speak, South Kitsap's board is meeting today. And I'm going to, without knowing the result, I have a pretty good guess that they're going to be voting to go 100% remote. So, because to be clear, when you read those statements, those are recommendations that the health department makes. They're not mandates. Now, I'm accepting them as a mandate, but to be clear, they're not. But what the insurance company's telling us is, yeah, they are mandates, because you do not have coverage for COVID-related illnesses if you do not follow the Department of Health guidelines. I see a couple of questions. Do you want me to address that, Director Pickens?
Sure, yeah, I saw the hands go up. Director Stauffer, did you?
Yes, Superintendent, thank you for emphasizing that data. The other thing that pops in my mind is because our district goes into Jefferson County, and I don't remember the number of students that we have. At one time we had 200 families, but I think that's changed now. But is there great discussions between both county health officers when we look at the data and how that could affect both areas? So that's, our school district and Chemicum, Port Townsend, and even Quilcing type thing.
Well, the answer is there's a lot of discussion between Dr. Unthank and Dr. Locke, but Clallam County is our county of record, and we have to follow the recommendations set by that Department of Health. And even there are multiple school districts around the state that have property in multiple counties. There may be some that even have acreage in 3 counties. I've worked for a couple that had 2 counties, but Clallam County is our county of record. And so everything that's all the decision making by our county board of health is what is applicable to us.
Director Koo.
Yeah, thank you. My question has to do with the availability of what I'm calling an infection rate, and I don't know if that's the right number, but it is the number referenced by the insurance and also OSPI recommendations. I know we get the daily updates that give the math for the number, so any of us can figure that out. It's how many cumulative cases there are, and then how many folks have recovered. So the net of that is that number that I'm looking for. But what's not given out, I guess, is that 14-day rolling average that you mentioned. So that would be helpful to have kind of up front and center, I feel, not only, well, primarily for folks in your shoes, Dr. Clark. Is that something that you readily have available to see?
Yeah,
what that
I
number
thought I forwarded you that website.
And if you did, I missed it, so I'll check that out. Thank you.
It's in there. I have it readily available. And again, to be clear, there's a 4-day lag. And I think, and maybe it's possible if you get on the phone to Dr. Unthank that you can get quicker information than that. But I would be surprised. Even though we love to have up-to-date daily data, I think a 4-day lag is fairly reasonable.
I think and again, I don't know the specific details, but it does say, even if we're talking about the coronavirus.wa.gov site that does get into that number, even though it does talk about when it was last updated, to the best, and I haven't taken a ton of time to research, there sometimes are still components within that update that may not be updated as frequently. So I think that's, and that might be what you're referring to, Dr. Clark, whereas even I think it says that the last was updated August 9th, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of the data that's displaying is up to date through that date is I guess my concern. So even though it looks like, oh, it's August 9th, that may not be accurate. I think Director.
I think the date that it says updated August 9th, but I think that's data through August 7th.
Okay.
Is my what I've been told. I won't swear by that. I think it's close to up to date. I mean, by that manner, but obviously if something happened on Saturday or Sunday, I don't know if it's in those figures.
Yeah. Well, I think, because once you drill down, there is data that shows, like I had earlier referenced that, it looks like that over the last 2-week period, we might be up to 43 cases. So I think, that's sometimes the number there might be a little misleading, or not misleading, but just it may not be the most accurate picture for sure. So
I agree.
Director Jeffries, did you have a question?
No, I agree. I've read some that the state Department of Health is trying to get more accurate. They say it's a reporting problem, and I don't know if it takes time for the counties to upload their information. But I do have concerns about getting real-time data, especially when we're going to make decisions based on number of cases per 100,000. And do a little bit of the calculations, there's a little bit of difference between what the county says and what the state says. Like OSPI's report card is our official data. Is officially what the Department of Health out of Olympia says, or is the official data what the Clallam County Public Health says, or is it we call up Dr. Unthank and get the latest numbers, and that is our the numbers we go by? It's a little bit confusing because there definitely are not the same information when you look at those Department of Health site, and the county and the state site.
I concur with what you're saying, Director Jeffries. What I'm using as official is that spreadsheet that Tracy just brought up front. I will accede if there's something more accurate or more up to date than that 3 or 4 day lag. I would be happy to use that. But that's the information I use.
Okay, because I agree with Eric. I think we're, moving up into the NU in the 40s and 50s based on some of the bar graphs that we get from the county, which are sometimes not as accurate. But we seem to be creeping closer, moving in the direction of 75 per 100,000, and moving away from it, which is very concerning. And like some people mentioned, with the upcoming holidays, Labor Day weekend and so on, what that might mean for us. How soon, if it hits 75, do we close immediately? And if it hits 25, do we start opening up immediately? What's your feeling about how we react to those numbers?
I think it would be easier just from a procedural process to close at 76 than it would be to fully open at 25. That's just my take on it. And I don't know if the minute you hit 75, you shut down. I will ask Dr. Unthank that question. I don't know if you got to be over 75 for 3 days or something like that. I will follow up on that, and I will get you the answer by tomorrow.
Yeah, because the concern would be if we hit 75 on the Department of Health site, that means maybe we hit 75 4 days ago.
That's correct.
Right?
That you are correct. And it's all 14 day. So, as it moves forward, there's some they subtract and some they add. And lately they've done a lot more adding than subtracting.
Okay. Yep. Thanks.
Dr. Clark, I guess my only follow-up question is the plan that we've approved, did some of the additional details that the governor released in the Department of Health about the 3 different categories and us being a moderate, does that warrant taking a look at the specifics of that plan and making alterations as needed?
No, our plan fits within those medium risk guidelines.
Okay. Even the middle school and high school portions of it, or
I see your point. Thank you. I think we need to look at that again when we move forward with adding students. You are correct that basically after rereading that, I think you fill your elementary first.
Okay. All right. Anything else regarding that topic from Anybody else before we move on? Director Jeffries, I see is your hands up, but that might just be from the last question. Okay. All right. So, Dr. Clark, unless you have anything else, we move forward towards board goals.
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay.
Thank you for that feedback.
All right. So, talk about board goals. And back to you, Dr. Clark, to start us off with that.
Well,
Or
I guess I would like some feedback from the board on maybe a quick rehash on how this year went, my first year here, the good, the bad, the ugly. And what are some things that you want to see accomplished in this upcoming year? And I'll answer the question, then I'll have a response after what I hear from the board. But that's where I'd like to go. I say a brief synopsis about how you think this last year went. What are some things you would like to see the board / superintendent do? Because the board goals and the superintendent goals are synonymous. And I want to accomplish what you want me to accomplish. I'll have a couple of things that I think need to be accomplished that we can add to that. But it's my goal to, as a steward of this school district, and I report to elected officials, I want to accomplish many of the things that you want me to accomplish.
all right. So we start with Director. Well, why don't we change the order a little bit? Director Stauffer, do you want to go first on this one?
Sure, thank you. Superintendent, I would say that we were starting out on a good trajectory, good plan. You had some goals. That's part of the hiring process. We had some very good discussions there during the back in December, January. There was strong talk of what the need of an EP&O levy and then capital projects, or whether it should be a bond. We had that initial workshop or community forum, which I think there was, as I remember is correct, 90 folks attended that, and very positive interactions going along. And then COVID happened, and I believe we've still kept on track. We have to focus energy on what is the most emergent and crisis at the time, and we had to face those realities. But we have still kept the need of the EP&O and a capital projects levy out there for the community to see, and because that's not going to go away. Those when I think of facilities, some of those items go back to 2008 and then 2012, and understanding that whatever stage we're in, those are still an item. And then on the EP&O, it's very important that all the stakeholders, our community, our families recognize that what portion of our funding comes out of EP&O. And I heard on the WASDA call last week, I'm trying to find my notes on that, but it was something like only 26% of the levies that were run on the ballot here in August passed. And So that speaks to the uncertainty out there in the messaging. And I appreciate how you keep emphasizing the importance and that we need to have that EP&O levy, and then that's it's all of us being involved in that. So that's and I on your notes here that you sent us, the school improvement plans, like to see that still working along. The policies, bringing those up to date and how that all looks. And then I just, how are you feeling yourself? Because one of the things that WASDA keeps telling us is to check in with our superintendents and see how they are doing themselves and ask them that question. So, but from there, thank you for your work and keeping us updated.
All right, how about Director Kuhn?
All right, if I cut out, forgive me. I'm working on technology issues on this end, including 3 little bandwidth sucking vampires. Yeah, I agree. Obviously, we came out of the chutes hot this year, you know, as a district with a lot of energy, and it's just, you know, frankly, it's heartbreaking. You know, the momentum stopping and momentum killing of this COVID virus, and you know, that's just our reality, and we just have to accept that. But it's hard not to lament where we were headed otherwise as a district. So obviously the playing field's been changed, and so I acknowledge, I guess, for the record, that our focus, you know, with you, Rob, changes as a result. I mean, obviously, continuity of operations, safety of our students, you know, fiscal stewardship, those are all, you know, ever-present objectives, but how we get there is different. I would agree with your comments and your assessment as far as the shift in focus, as far as what's most important and right in front of us, and certainly not that all other initiatives be forsaken, but we certainly do have you know, pressing priorities at the moment, which is what we've been talking about here, and then getting prepped and ready for an absolutely critical levy passage, and hopefully one too that can keep this district moving forward with the capital improvements dollars. As far as kudos, you know, just your direct no spin assessment of things, both good and bad. I've really appreciated that, and you know, that certainly harkens to the length of your tenure as a professional, and the depth of that experience. So that has been not an unexpected surprise, but certainly a helpful and meaningful characteristic of yours in the past year. That's including the weekly updates. You know, a mechanism so simply, you know, so as simple as that, can certainly be hard to do. And I've heard around the water cooler that most superintendents don't necessarily enjoy those. So I get it, and I really appreciate your you know, willingness and consistency in getting those to us, because it certainly helps as a board member just to know a general state of affairs, you know, real high level, especially if there's any you know, concerns on the horizon or things that you know, we may need to be aware of, and so that's been very helpful. I trust our executive team has been working obviously closer with you, and you know, making sure that you're well resourced, or you know, you have the support of the board where you need it. If that's not the case, then let's discuss that as a body. You know, not to not to criticize anyone, but just to obviously do better in the spirit of constant improvement. I really don't have critical feedback, and I hate that, because you're probably like me and find that the most valuable. But I will reflect on that further, and certainly won't keep it from you. If there's something meaningful I can contribute to that, But in the moment, I just sadly just don't have any that pops into my mind. I am appreciative and looking forward to working with you during this next transitional phase. Despite you being on longer than you had originally planned, I still recognize that, as we take a slightly higher perspective, we are still within a transitional period for the district. And so that entails and includes a lot. So I'm mindful of that. I know there's a lot of work to be done in the months ahead. We have this challenge of COVID, and in the process, maintaining the trust of primarily our parents, our students, and our community members. And I'm confident we can do that. We can strike that balance and maintain that trust, and certainly enough to one day, receive that in a favorable vote of not only our levies, but one day finally addressing our larger facility needs as they continue to go in one direction. So that's all I can think of right now.
Thank you, Director Koo. Director Jeffries.
Yeah, I agree with what Director Stoffer and Director Koo said. I would add one of the goals was to, you came in to make the district whole again because there were some fractures. I ran for the school board because I had concerns about the direction of the way the schools were headed. I think definitely made some definite progress along those, and COVID came along, and it's been described like, and others have described it as COVID virus has kind of ripped the Band-Aids off of all the Band-Aid fixes maybe we put on, and has brought into focus our problems and our strengths at the same time. I do agree that one of the strengths is kind of your demeanor of no nonsense, take charge kind of attitude. I would add to that, I hate to see you take it all on your shoulders. I think at one time you described it as one brain. You got some fantastic people working your cabinet and staff, and I would like to see more, collaborative effort along those lines to bring the district together as we make our way through this COVID, who has made the urgency of the team effort even more important. And I am concerned about pockets or areas of discontent or concern, and maybe the differences between the outlook on things between the secondary and the elementary schools. Strategic plan, I think we've done a pretty good job of that. In fact, our COVID reopening task force was kind of organized along the strategic plan, and the various committees were organized aligned with the strategic plan. So it's we're working that, but again, the COVID has brought that even in more focus. Let's put it that way. And the bond issue and the facility, I realize the bond issue now is down the road. I think it'll be a struggle on our levies. EP&O levy is going to be critical to the school district, as well as a capital projects levy, because there's some definite things we need fixed. And I do have great concerns how our reopening and how we handle that is going to affect the public. What will help us a lot is for that robust academic, much more 200, 300% more successful remote learning that you talked about. I think that's highly critical. And then I have concerns about wellness of everybody, from everybody on board members, staff members, administration, teachers, students, and parents, and the community. I think it's under great stress with all that's going on, that we hear that's going on around us, and throw the COVID crisis on top of that. The stresses are real. And some of the criticisms and negative comments probably deal with some real concerns people have for what's happening and what does it mean for me and what does that mean for my kids. And we need to recognize that. And then I don't know, we'll get to some of your other, policy inconsistencies, outdated policies have been a burr under my saddle since I got on board. As a new brand, I mean, I've only been on the board less than a year. And one of the things I did is read all the policies, and I started rereading them and finished the 1000 series. And there's some contradictions and things that just don't seem right and out of date. And I hear possibilities, we passed something along those lines, updated some of those policies. But for me, it's what's published is our policy, not what we think we published or what we did, but what's published. So I do have concerns about that. So, I still think we can do achievement and trying to repair achievement gaps. I'm not sure how we're going to measure them with remote learning. So I have concerns. So I look forward to it. I think we need to really pull together as a team, the board, administration. I think it can be done, but this is educating these kids is real serious business to me. So we need to do it safely and we need to do it the best we can. So I'm looking forward to it. I think we have the people in place to do that. So that's my 2 cents. I probably have some more to add as we go along. Thank you.
Well, before I add, Director Koo, did you have something else?
I had a question, but I don't want to steal the thunder. So go ahead and I'll ask it when you're done.
Oh, sure. No problem. I'd certainly echo what some of my other colleagues have said. Looking at the first goal, making the district whole again, the district being fractured, I think some progress was made there. I think we would all probably agree, though, that we did know that work was going to be longer than just a 1-year endeavor. So I suppose as it relates to progress moving forward, especially during a crisis type situation, I think it's important that we continue to focus on the district culture and climate overall, and that remains a priority, because it's those type of things that can sometimes get pushed to the back burner during a crisis. But keeping us headed the right direction for the facility concerns that we have, I think has been a focus despite what we're going through and how we have had to make adjustments towards planning for that. That's obviously still going to be a big concern as we move forward, but also a goal as we move forward to get those things addressed. So those are really the kind of the feedback I have on those 2 things as well. I think everything else kind of revolves around where things have been since the COVID crisis started, particularly when it's achievement gaps. And I think we are obviously, there are, hindsight being 2020. Of course, there are things that we can do better. And I think as it relates to planning and communication and some of the feedback that came early on in the call, I think as long as we all look at it from the perspective of that we're gonna continue to do better and learn from what's happened in the past, I think that's the best perspective to have in that type of case. But I think that's my feedback as far as that's concerned. So so back to you, Director Koo, for your question.
Yes, thank you. Oh, doggone it. I forgot it. I dropped off again while you were speaking and plumb forgot my question. So if I think of it, I'll ping you again. Thank you.
No worries. And I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Clark, for your feedback. Has Director Gibson joined us yet? Let me just check.
I'm
Don't see him.
muted. Thank you for the feedback. I think your assessments were really fairly close to where I feel my job was this last year. What was good, what was bad. I mean, certainly none of us wanted COVID to happen, but it did. And I think it did stop a lot of forward momentum that the district was facing. I do think we still have a little ways to go in making the district whole. I appreciated Director Jeffrey's assessment that there are pockets of discontent in the district. I agree with that. I don't know that you ever eliminate that, but I do think you work to minimize it to a level that is tolerable. Right now, the few of the pockets isn't tolerable for me. So I appreciated that comment. I think that this next 2 months is going to have a lot to say about the momentum of our district and where we go from here. And hopefully we'll be able to, it will be in our control. And by that, I mean that the numbers decrease, stay in that medium, or even go to the low risk model, and we'll be able to accomplish some things. I think that we can accomplish a lot of things in regards to whether we're 100% remote, an AABB hybrid, or, with much more face-to-face brick and mortar education. We also have to look to DVS to do some things that we haven't done in this district, ever. So I think, and I don't know who it was, I think it was a couple of you mentioned the achievement gap. I think we can still attack the achievement gap remotely and with the hybrid, maybe not as effectively as we would like to, but I still think we can deal with that. I think there's a decent percentage of our students who get a great education in the Sequim School District. But there's also a percentage of our students that we can do better on. And that's where I'm going to try and put the overwhelming focus of my time these upcoming years and work towards getting that 20 to 25% of kids who have struggled for whatever reason through our system, that we do a better job for those kids. And that's fairly consistent about my goals in all the districts I've worked in. And I want to continue to do that. You can always improve from a communication standpoint. You can never stand pat communication wise. The other thing is the EP&O and the capital projects levy are crucial to this district. And that's where the first 2 months are crucial to the passage of that. I saw not only did a small percentage of those districts that ran here during the primary failed, some failed their EP&O levy, some of them failed miserably. And so, that is part of the situation. I'm sure the pandemic and the shutdown and those things affected those votes. So that's why it's all that much more critical that the job we do over the next few months is that exemplary job that I know our staff is capable of and that we can do. In direct response to Director Stopper, first of all, and all of you, thanks for looking out for me. Thanks for hiring me. I think that at this point in time, after a year, I would say it's been a good fit. I would also say that my experience as a superintendent has helped this situation. I am probably not as stressed out as somebody who hasn't spent as many years in this chair. But that's not to say that I still get fired up about the education of children. And it's important to me that every year Sequim School District provides a quality education for the children. And I look forward to the start of this school year like I look forward to the start of every year. Yeah, I feel bad it's not what we're used to, but I think at some point in time we have to get past that, because it's not like it's just bad for us. It's bad for everyone in every state and every county. Maybe the light at the tunnel is a little bit brighter in some places, but we're fortunate enough we're one of only 9 counties that can have any kids on campus. So we have to be thankful for even small gifts, and we have to use those small gifts that we have. And at some point, we have to get past the point of, for lack of a better way of saying it, feeling sorry for ourselves that we got caught up in this. And we have to make the best for our kids, and we have to reach down and figure it out. And I'm glad that some of you acknowledge the team that I get to work with, because I do think they're extremely fine educators and people. And I've enjoyed the year working with them. And we will continue to move that forward. So that's where I'm at. And again, in the next 2 hours, I want you to give me more feedback on ways you want to see the district grow and thrive. And I see that Director Gibson has logged on.
Director Gibson, are you there?
Yeah,
sir?
I am here. Thank you, and so sorry about that, but unfortunately, duty called at the last minute, and
I'll happily pass over the chair to you then, sir.
okay.
We just were talking about 2.01 board goals, and all of us spoke, and then Dr. Clark spoke. I don't know if you want to weigh in on that before we go to board compensation, and also
real quick, Brandino, if you could take a few minutes. What I asked the other board members was to, give me a rehash of the year. Good, bad, ugly, all those things, and some things you'd like to see me work on this upcoming year.
Sure. Okay. And I see Director Koo's got his hand up, but I'll jump in and throw that out there and then turn it over to Brian real quick. Yeah, well, be interesting to know what was said before, but it's been a crazy year all the way around. I think Dr. Clark, you came on board, and made your presence known pretty well, pretty quickly, and we got a lot of initial good feedback from just your presence out in the schools and in the district, and getting to talk to people, and people were staff had an opportunity to see you more than they felt they saw leadership in the past, and that was very, very good and impactful. And then you had your opportunity to have to deal with a snow days that were handled appropriately, and then once we got through that, it seemed like boom, we were stuck in this pandemic, and life was different for all of us, and this has all been very different. I did hear the end. I guess I would say also, and I would say for the all the way around, the staff have been great at trying to make those changes. I know all of us in all of our walks of life have had to do that as well. And and staff jumped in and did what they could from that first shutdown, and now we're looking at a whole different impact. I guess one of my managers in the past always said that I don't care how great a communicator you are, we could all be better at communicating. I think you do a pretty good job of that. I think we all do, but I think we all could do better at it too. And I think, especially in a situation like we're in right now, you can't have too much communication, and just making sure that we're getting the word out. We're getting as much word out as we can. And to be honest with you, I know I'm hearing some good stuff about the YouTube video that I haven't had 2 seconds to even sit down and look at yet today, because it's been a pretty crazy day for me all the way through. But things like that, I think, go a long way from communicating to the community and the parents, and I say community in there too, because we have as some may have already said too, we have a community that gets very involved in our schools and looks at what's going on, and whether they have kids, grandkids, or none in the district, they have interest in it, and they like to see what's happening. So and this is not on a ding part, but again, you can never over communicate. So just, communicate with us and figure out between your awesome team that you have too, what's the best way we can let people know what's going on. And I think that's just going to go a long way with helping people out. Recently, I know I've heard some things about, okay, we got this Dungeness Virtual Academy thing, but how do we get in it? What is that about? And because of all the different stuff and just those kind of things, the more we can communicate to the community, the better. And staff all the way down. And I know it comes from the top down, but that top leads down to building administrators, down to staff, and just making sure that that word from the top down gets there to all the staff as well. I guess that's my quick take on it.
Yep. Okay.
Right. All right. So before we move on, I guess Director Koo, you had your hand up patiently, so I'll turn that over to you. What do you got to say?
Oh, I'm never patient. No, I'm kidding. Thank you. My question had to do with Director Jeffries' reference to our policies, and it certainly wouldn't be the panacea to cure what ails us, but I think it would help. And Tracy, sorry, this is kind of flopping it on your lap. Perhaps, but I think WASDA offered at one time a pretty cost-effective policy audit that did a number of things. I think one made sure that what we've approved is what we have in our library of policies, to Director Jeffries' point. And then two, I believe it also digitized the documents. That's not a big deal, but it is, scans of paper that we have for some of our policies can be a bit archaic. I think Larry may even have an answer to that question. So whomever wants to ask, that's what I was thinking.
Go ahead, Larry. Your hand's up there.
Yeah, I don't know if I have an answer. I will say that in my exploring of the policies over the last little less than a year, I do know that the district Assistant Superintendent Mon in particular, probably Tracy and some of the other staff were working very diligently trying to get some 50 to 60 policies upgraded, up to date, checking on where we were. It's a pretty daunting task. So at the time, it looked like we were well on the road to handling that. I don't know where WASDA's capabilities are to take that over and take a look at that or not. But I thought we were kind of headed down that path, and then the policy, again, we got real busy, and the policies may not have been as pursued. And I get the impression that that's kind of happened in the past, and that's why some of our policies are out of date. I did try to do searches of the minutes, school board meeting minutes, to see when and if we talked, you or the board had talked about certain policies that I had concerns about, and that's an even more daunting task to search minutes to find all that. So it's going to be that's going to be a fairly robust task, but I will say that I think the policies are the foundation of how the school operates. And to the degree that they're out of date and or haven't been updated and or contradictory to each other sometimes, I think in the long run weakens the effectiveness of the governance that we are responsible for. And maybe we'll see, that's one of the Band-Aids that was kind of ripped up maybe for a while, that we have some policy concerns that we need to figure out how to address in spite of everything else that's going on. I don't think that's the highest priority right now, but it is found getting things off to a running start. It's maybe a good start and a robust start academically for our remote and whatever in-person learning we can do, and getting support for the teachers working out of their classrooms to help kids, and whatever we can do to help them is going to help in so many ways as well. But we can't, I'm concerned we can no longer put the policy update too far in the rear view mirror, or we're just going to find in more trouble down the road. I think it multiplies. It's kind of like the driving around with your check engine light going on and off. Eventually you need to get that looked at and fixed, or it's going to give you trouble down the road. So that's my 2 cents. I think that I keep adding 2 cents. But I think the district was well on the way to looking at all those. And from my conversations with the district, there's already been a fairly robust effort to try to work on those policies. We need to get it across the finish line here pretty soon. That's all I have to say for now.
Director Gibson, before Director Stauffer, and I see you sent an email about an email conversation with Kelsey Winters in 2018. I'd like Tracy to address that, please.
Okay.
Clarification, you would like me to address where we're at and where we're headed?
Well, didn't you follow up with Kelsey with WASDA in
Correct.
regards to doing a policy audit, and they didn't really get back to you? Is that an accurate statement?
That is accurate. Multiple times. I wasn't sure. She was very helpful on some direct policy issues, but then when I was pursuing the quotes and kind of telling her where we were at and what we needed from them, it was radio silent. So I don't know if that's an outdated thing that they don't offer anymore, but I can absolutely pick that up again if directed to. And Dr. Clark, I'll let you share your vision for policy, and made some progress over the weekend with a few of them, and looking forward to getting them all cleaned up and beautiful. And it is a daunting task. And Dr. Clark and I have talked about how we are going to prioritize it and get it done.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a comment here in a minute, but I would yield the floor to Director Stoff.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Director Stoffer.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick update. Kelsey had some health issues, and then WASDA has hired another assistant, and they are up and running again, fully functioning in that staff area. And then at one time we talked about because we have board docs light, and we talked about going to the full board docs, which helps with a whole bunch of platforms there. And so I just put that out there again. But I think the reason why Kelsey went radio silence there is because there was some was not able to get to a phone, and there was only one staff member, and that's been resolved, and they have actually 3 in that department now.
Great. Thanks for that update. And Director Jeffries, I appreciate you just keeping tabs and keeping on top of this with us, because when the pandemic thing happened, we all figured we'd probably be back to somewhat of a normal schedule of dealing with things within a month or two, and now we're 5 months later and still stuck in the situation that we are. And we can't let those things continue to lapse. We've the focus right now obviously has to be on opening our school year in the best capacity that we can for our students and for our staff. But those things have to be addressed. And so, glad to hear that we're starting to, get that back rolling. But we know where the focus has had to be, and it's not where we typically would have it in the manner that we would typically have it. So a lot of work to do, and just good to that's good to have this workshop and talk about these things.
And the last thing that I would say is that I've directed Tracy to, on a given day of the week, if there's some lag time, to go into the other room, the PD room, and spend time working on policies. Some weeks there is a half day, other weeks there's not. It is my goal that by the end of this next year at this time, we'll all say, great job, Tracy. Thanks for updating all these things. There will be some work certainly on the board's part in this regard, but I think we can get there. And it's not a 1 month, it's not a 2-month process. I've done 3 district-wide policy audits, policy reviews, 2 in Washington and 1 in Oregon. And it's anywhere from a 9 to a 12-month process. In both cases, in Washington, we hired WASDA, and in Oregon, we hired the consultant from OSBA, which is their WASDA. I think where we're at right now, I think we can do it without them. But after a month, 6 weeks, I will tell you whether I'm right or not.
Sounds good. And just checking, Director Jeffries, you still have your hand up, or did you re-put it up?
Yeah, just quickly, I wanted to, I don't want us to discount tremendous amount of effort that's been going on in the past year or so on upgrading and making on work on our policies. We have a tremendous amount of work already done on where we stand with those policies, and I think we ought to take a real close look at that before we bring in WASDA to possibly do the same work that's already been done, to make sure we know exactly where we are and what we need.
Good point.
So I don't want to discount all the hard work that's already been done.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, good point, Larry. Okay. So trying to catch up here. So we on 202 board compensation? If we're moving
Yep.
on?
May I address that, please?
Absolutely, sir.
We passed the policy that board members can be compensated up to $50 for a meeting. And all up to, I believe it's $4,800 a year. And I just want some clarification on what a meeting is. Is that a board meeting? Is that a board work? Is that for the president and the vice president? Is that agenda setting? Is that if there's a community forum? Is that a community forum? If an individual is attending an event as a representative of the school district, does that count? I just want to be clear and consistent with every board member and move forward from there. That's my clarification. I put that on the agenda because I want clarification. Like this meeting, I reckon some of them are easy for me to determine. Others aren't quite as easy.
Got it. Yeah. So I'll jump in first and just give you my interpretation. And, first of all, I'll just lead off with saying that it's not particularly, mine or anybody's business on who claims and who does not. But with that said, I guess my interpretation of it was, board-based meetings. So a board meeting, a workshop, an agenda. If I'm attending something as a board member at the high school, that is not a board directed kind of a function. It's not a board gathering, and I don't know. Is it laid out? It's not laid out specifically though in our policy. Do we have that up here?
Tracy will bring it up.
Got it. So while we're bringing that up, I'll let Director Stauffer. I think you had your hand up first.
Yes, thank you. I'll as the policy pulls up, I'll go with that. But the RCW on this, which is RCW 28 alpha.343.400, says $50 per day or portion thereof for attending board meetings and for performing other services on behalf of the school district, not to exceed the $4,800 per year. So that's the high level RCW, and it doesn't break it down into attending other, but it's for performing other services on behalf of the school district. So for me, if a board member has been appointed to work on a committee and that committee's been working, then that's probably in that line there. But if attending a band choir concert, in my lens, attending a back to school function or a kickoff type function, no. But if it's for performing other services on behalf of the school district, and I see those words that the person was appointed or directed to do that type thing, that's the lens I look at. Thank you.
Okay, great. Director Jeffries had his hand up.
Yeah, just Tracy did hold up the procedure,
Mhm.
which, you know, isn't a board policy, but the procedure talks about a formal waiver of compensation. And if a board member, you know, I don't remember seeing a formal waiver other than you just didn't turn in.
Right.
And I don't know if that's necessary, but I agree with your assessment and Director Stauffer's assessment of what is and isn't a board meeting. And I don't know, like these virtual meetings that we're in, I would be reluctant to ask for per diem days if I didn't leave my house. You know, if I didn't have to get in my car and go someplace to a meeting. But then again, this is taking up quite a bit of time. But I'm one that, you know, I'm one that's more like fill out a waiver for compensation. So I kind of don't know quite how to answer all this.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thanks, Larry, because you know, looking at the policy itself, I mean, it states what it states. Director Koo, go ahead. I know you had put some words in the chat there, but I'll let you speak.
Sure, and I could be off base here. I'm actually, I think, surprisingly, perhaps one of the more liberal interpretations of this. My understanding, and forgive me, this is from discussion, and God knows what other boards that I may be extrapolating from that's not appropriate. But I believe it's any event in a board member capacity. So attending graduation would be an example. There was somebody recently said that I actually disagreed with. I would say that it is applicable. I think it was the back to school event. If that was being attended as a board member and in that capacity, so say, if it wasn't your school or you didn't have a student there, but you're there as a board member to support the teachers, whatever the case is, my understanding is that would include that would count as board business. And Larry, to your point, I get where you're coming from on the not leaving, but I also would push back and say that this is the work that's involved. Obviously, the compensation is pretty nominal, and anyone has a right to take it. My sole motivation personally, even though I haven't done it yet, is to fund these scholarships that we'll talk about at a future date. So I guess I'm viewing the lens a little more liberally than others are, which is rather unique, but that's my interpretation of it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and we all. So I'm looking at it from what the policy states, because I look at it kind of not as liberal, because I would be one of those that waives it. I don't know. Just on a personal note, the district we're pinching pennies in a lot of different areas, and I don't want to pinch any of that money away from it. That's my personal thought on it. It has nothing to do with what the policy says. Yeah. But I have enough troubles with that in my day job too, because I don't claim per diem for things that I could. I mean, I don't know that this to me, I mean, from my standpoint, from outside of my personal opinion, we're looking at procedure. If it falls within those guidelines, then it should be compensatable. That's my thoughts. Director Jeffries, you got your hand back up.
Yeah, but I don't know, playing devil's advocate, and I don't know if I want to, because we as board members do attend several different things that aren't directly assigned to us, but at the same time, if we show up, if three of us show up, we announce that a board quorum may exist. Now, does that put a monkey wrench into some of our thinking. I don't know. I don't know if I liberally or conservatively interpret that as qualifying for per diem.
Yeah.
Again, since I waive, it's yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm in the same situation, Larry. Director Pickens, you had your hand up. Sorry, I keep missing you over there, buddy.
Sure. Initially, I would have, I was kind of along the same lines as Director Stoffer, and now looking at the procedure, I think it is. Oh, would you mind? Could we put the procedure back up there? Because I was.
Yeah.
Thank you. It seems because there were some activities that I was going to say could be somewhat questionable, and I guess where my mind goes is that where I could draw the clear line in the sand, and I think this is pretty apparent, is the activities that we go to where it's pretty clear that we're there as a board member. So a graduation might be a good example. There was no doubt, that activity, we were there as a board member. And I think for several of the activities similar to that, it's pretty clear that we're serving in that role. And I also appreciate, Director Gibson, what you said about the need to be mindful of from a funding perspective as well. And what I keep going back to in that regard is if I think about the what I believe anyway, the spirit of this is that we want folks to serve on a board that aren't necessarily we don't want the only folks representing holding public office to be just those that are quote unquote financially able to. So I think it's about opening it up to where the representation on the board is more than just those that are financially able to. So I think that's kind of the lens that I try to look at it from. And again, like Director Kuhn mentioned, we're not talking about a large portion of money here. So that's really my perspective. The one thing that I want to mention was that I'm sorry, were you trying to say something, Tracy? Oh, sorry. Was it does mention I believe board approved activities, as if the board has to know about it in advance, if I'm reading that correctly. Is that, missed the spot now where that was stated, but that might be something. Yeah, there it is. When approved by the board in advance. So that might be just something to consider. And usually there is a question that's usually put out, who's gonna be attending this, so we can make the proper notifications. But I think the spirit of it maybe does have maybe we do need to broaden it a bit, and just make sure that the event is one where we are representing the role as a school board director.
Okay, great. Director Stoffer, back to you.
Jim, I think you're muted.
Jim.
I'm sorry. I pulled the hand down one. Thank you, Director Pickens, for your input. Just some clarification on what I said before. I definitely would support the graduation events. And when I say kickoff, that annual kickoff ceremony that we're all invited and we're acknowledged that we're there. That to me falls under item D of the procedure here. And so if I think for me it's pretty well spelled out of what we can file for it or not file for it. And if I lost what I was going to say there, but the procedure pretty much follows. And then it's in the law from the RCW also. Thank you.
Go ahead, Director, or Dr. Clark.
Director Gibson, unless there's anything that hasn't been said already, I'm comfortable with the direction the board wants me to take. And I will, if I have any question, I will speak to you about a compensation issue. So I think we can move forward.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks everybody for your input and thoughts there. Okay, what do we got up next? Board meeting schedule, is that what we have next?
Yes, meeting calendar.
Gotcha. Okay.
Could we take a 2-minute or 5-minute?
Yeah, that sound good. Good plan, Director Stopper.
A break? What is that?
Concur.
Director Gibson just got here. He's like, what are you guys talking about?
I haven't left this spot that I'm sitting in since 7:30 this morning. I just swapped computers.
Well, I would concur on the break recommendation if you're taking input.
This is my dinner and lunch. Pistachios. It's all I could get to.
Thank you.
Wasn't sure. Did we have Dr. Clark back yet?
You do.
Okay, great. All right, then we are up for, well, before we move on, Eric and Larry had their hands up. Did you have anything specific to add after Dr. Clark's statement there?
I am good.
Okay. All right.
Director
Okay,
Gibson,
so yeah, go ahead, Larry.
Director Jeffrey. Before we move on too far, did we finish board goals? Were we to establish board goals tonight? or just some general input, and those board goals for the superintendent or his evaluation will be coming down later.
I would look for some assistance on that since I wasn't
Yeah, you
part of
were
that
here. We
conversation.
had quite a
Yeah.
discussion on, board goals and input and how we felt about things, kind of a ongoing discussion about how things were going and where we'd like to see things go. We moved on, and I'm not, were we supposed to define a set of goals tonight?
Where I was at with that, Director Jeffries, is I'm gonna talk about my goals, and then I would hope that the board has some goals for me after I talk about my goals, and then maybe they have some goals for themselves. That while that's what I wanted to do in item 2.04.
Okay, I got it. I should have just read a little bit further down
Yep.
on the agenda. Sorry about that.
That's right. Okay. Okay. Now we're on to our schedule. Tracy, I guess we can pull that back up.
The biggest thing that I would add to the one change that you will see on this agenda that's different, or excuse me, this list, it's not an agenda, but we only have one meeting in December. And I would like to recommend that. Obviously, if whatever's happening with the COVID situation, or there appears to be a need to have a second board meeting, I'm fine with that. But in regards to it, the initial board calendar, I would recommend we have one board meeting. Because if you look, we're kind of together for a long time in November, although the WASDA conference will be virtual this year. That changes a little bit of that. But that's what I would like to see.
That sounds good. Director Pickens?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the maybe it's appropriate time to bring this up, but I'm just thinking, I'm looking at so far as the location on these, and of course we don't know, how things are going to change from an OPMA perspective, but I wonder if it might be worth just talking about for a minute or two. If the my understanding was that we do have the ability to also meet at with free of charge at the city hall area as well, and I'm just wondering if a larger space is something we should consider for when we're meeting back in person, if that makes sense, and maybe if there's even some more ability to stream meetings in that location as well. And I don't know all the details of it, but although I do appreciate that there is some the idea of meeting on school grounds is sometimes worth discussing as well, but I thought that might be worthy of consideration.
No, I think that's a great point, Director Pickens. Just looking at that, and probably part of one of my, I guess, questions moving forward. I think, as far as the location layout there, we can always that can be adjusted. We've done that in the past anyway, as long as it's mentioned when we post the actual meeting, so that could be changed. And in the past, we've had the transit center that we've had access to. to use, and those things. And that kind of bears a question too as we move forward as well, from the legal realms to B, the comfortable realm of having the ability to. We're getting feedback there.
That's my computer.
Yeah, you could mute. For a
Let me
second
get
there.
off.
Can you mute there? There we go. Oh, he jumped off. Oh, or moved to areas. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, as options, and then at what point, from a legal standpoint to a comfortable standpoint for any kind of, social distance, physical, face-to-face meetings. I know, for me personal, they work so much better. But I'll leave it at that for now. And did we, looks like Dr. Clark jumped off for us for the moment. So
He is getting back on right now.
Yeah. We can wait for Dr. Clark before we move on with other comments. Are you back there, boss?
He's there. He's trying to get unmuted.
Got it.
It's not letting me. Oh, there it does.
There you go.
I'm sorry about that. I have multiple Zoom meetings in a day.
I hear you.
My computer goes wacko towards the end of the day.
All right. Okay, so we got a few comments out here. I'm just going to work down the line. So Director Koo, I'll let you lead off.
Thank you, sir. A couple things is, one, I do agree with the sentiment about the transit center or City Hall, which we haven't used before, but they did offer it up, if I recall. I love our district and our properties, but the other two options would likely be more accommodating for social distancing. And the other piece too, and I may have almost stepped in it with a comment I made online, go figure, but having to do with how much I'm enjoying the accessibility associated with these online meetings. Selfishly, that's been easier for me. And Brandino, I think you may have said something like that too. It cut out a little bit on my end. But there definitely is, the thing to be said is if, we're asking our teachers to go back in our facilities, then it's absolutely reasonable for the school board, unless there are, certain concerns for a board member to do the same. The only thing I would hope that we would look to consider, and frankly, maybe some of those offsite locations would be allow for it better, is to utilize some of the virtual technology with our school board meetings. Whether that's recording them or live streaming them or doing a live event plus Zoom. It certainly adds variables, and I'm not ignorant of that and the considerations to be made. But I love the idea of a single parent coming home from their job, being able to log in and listen to a school board meeting while they're making dinner for their student or helping them out with their homework and things like that. So I think just a takeaway from this COVID crisis is the capabilities of technology. And if we can find a way to incorporate that moving forward for the sake of accessibility for our district families, I would be very much in favor of that.
Yeah, thank you, Director Koo. That's a great point. Particularly when you look at, like at our last meeting, the number of attendees that we had, and not saying that we're going to have 130 people in all the time, but it would also, be good when we have a good number as well, giving them an opportunity to be able to attend in, even when we get back to in person. It's we've learned a lot from what we've been doing over the last few months, so it's been helpful. Let's see, Dr. Clark, I'll let you jump in there.
Oh, yeah, I'm learning about this. I'm
The
learning
hand
about
up.
this hand raising thing.
Yeah.
Hey, one of the things I do want to share with you, and I look forward for multiple reasons that when we can get back together and see each other face to face, is we're spending some time upgrading the board meeting room. And we're doing some things. We painted it. We bought some different chairs. We have a TV in there so that we can do. We're working on the ability to live stream. I think when we do have that meeting in September, October, November, whenever it comes about, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at the upgrade of the boardroom. And we've done that so we can do exactly what you're all describing, is that we will have the ability to live stream. We will have the ability to, put it on Zoom, and we'll be able to share screens and do things. And it will be, I'm not going to tell you it's going to state of the art, but it has a considerable upgrade. And I'm looking forward to the day that we meet in there. Although I will recognize what other directors have said, at a given board meeting or at a given time, there could be the need for greater space for participation. The one thing we have not, we've not added square footage. It's not something we can do. So I recognize if we have a big, that transit center and or council chambers offer us a larger square footage venue.
Great. Look forward to, all those upgrades. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, Director Stauffer, you're up.
Yes, one calendar item. Could I please have September 25th? That is the WASDA General Assembly, which is the combination legislative and permanent position. It used to be two separate. And this year, the board has the ability to attend as a board, but only one person has the voting credentials, the virtual voting. But that event goes from 8 a.m. on the 25th through 8 p.m. on the 25th. So those that have other day jobs also, but could we list it here? And then as we get closer to that date to discuss the platform tomorrow, if you're signed into the Direct Area 4 Caucus, I was going to talk more in detail on it there. And then some other, the Transit Center currently is the city's emergency operations center. They had it over at the Guy Cole Center, but they scaled back and moved it back into the Transit Center. So they have it set up that way. So that's it'd be tight for getting an appointment. And then city council meetings, they're on the 2nd and 4th Mondays. So they're meeting right now for their city council meeting. But I know there's always some kind of scheduling conflicts there. But I agree with the access to our families, which is this current system has afforded that. And then last week I did get a quick tour of the boardroom because I had my laptop in getting it serviced, and saw the paint job and the desk. And so looking forward to actually getting back in there. And also at one time on one of our capital projects bond, we had a elevator that was to be installed so that that room upstairs next across the hall, well, the hallway across from the superintendent's office, that was to be the new boardroom, and which is a lot bigger, but of course it had to have access for ADA. But so maybe we can put a elevator on the capital projects levy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Jeffries.
Director Stauffer alluded to one of my concerns was the scheduling, that trying to schedule the transit center council chambers could play havoc with our schedule for a board meeting because of conflicts. I would think maybe the high school library could be a better place with more room for the board, depending on how it was set up. The other thing I'm concerned about is I know I was frustrated in July because we only had one July meeting at a time of crisis when I was really thinking we probably needed to have another meeting there. Unless we have a July meeting, it'd be nice to have a potential meeting date, like maybe not July 5th, maybe July 6th on a Tuesday, that may be available to us in case the COVID crisis continues and we need that time. Also, kind of the same with the December meeting. I realize the nature of December, but this year could be quite a bit different. Years previous, it'd be nice to figure out a way maybe to have a potential date for a board meeting, a second board meeting in December if we had to have it. So that's just a couple considerations, but other than that, the schedule looks pretty good as long as we don't have to change all the dates because we want to meet, on the city council chambers.
Well, we wouldn't do that. It would be based on availability. Our dates are what our dates are. And as far as, I mean, I do agree, but we do have the capability, let's say, as Dr. Clark said earlier, if we have a December situation, we can add a meeting as long as we have made the decision and we give the public enough notification that we can throw that in there to do that. So, okay, Dr. Clark, back at you.
I guess I didn't take my hand down. I'm done.
Oh, okay.
The only thing that I would say, in addition to the the potential scheduling mix-ups or whatever. I would add, it is a burden. She's not going to admit to it. It's a burden on Tracy to have to transport all of our materials to the to offsite.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, looks like Tracy wants to pipe in on that.
I would absolutely not admit to that. I am happy to follow and set up wherever we go. But in the past, when we've tried to do the large room at the city council, they couldn't guarantee us any dates.
Yeah.
If something came up, they had to kick us off. But in reference to your guys' comments about Zoom and streaming and that type thing, I just wanted to take a minute. I didn't know if you noticed the beginning with the EP&O meeting, if you hit, oh shoot, let me log out real quick. I think I showed this to Eric and Brandino, that our videos now are, our minutes, our videos are linked there if you want to look. Let's just look real quick. So if you hit watch video here now, it's right here, and you can go down to, click through and it will take you to just the spot that you need. So that's an added feature we've added through Board Docs, which also takes you to our, so here, if you just want to hear the budget stuff, if you just want to click through to where you want to go, it will do that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool.
Thank you.
Very cool. Yeah, and I think the nature of the point, I think, several of us were just bringing up options that had been brought up before, not specifically, oh, we have to go to the transit center or the city council. I mean, as Larry stated, I mean, the lunchroom at the high school or some of those other larger rooms within the district as well are other options. We've moved around to some of those. There's some that probably wouldn't work as well, like say Helen Howler isn't quite as capable there, but yeah, I think the nature of that conversation, I think, was more just options that could be that we could go to, and just throwing some thoughts out there if we chose to do that at a larger space, to be able to be in person and still operate that stuff. Director Pickens.
Yeah, real quick. The only thing I was just going to add is just, as I know, even before I came on the board, there were some occasions where, we had sometimes during more controversial issues, but where we've had folks out in the hallway and that sort of thing. And if there's any time we can anticipate those to whatever degree, I think if folks are wanting to participate, wanting to be there, we should even, I think there are some rules in place for making an emergency switch of a meeting to accommodate for more folks. So I think we should make that a priority regardless what the issue is. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is. We could adjourn the meeting to move to another space. Now that obviously is going to take a lot of effort and work, but yeah, those are options to do. But to that point, and I think that's some things we had kind of discussed in the past as well. Just that, if we do have something that, I mean, there have been numerous times where we knew we were going to get a crowd, and just being mindful of that. And possibly adjusting accordingly to that as well. So other than that, I think we all agree that that the schedule looks good as it is. Dr. Clark, did you have something to add, or we're turning it back your way?
Nope, I'm good. I'm good with that schedule, with the addition of Director Stoffer's. Was that August 25?
September.
Director Stoffer?
No, it was September 25th. September
Okay.
25th.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, I sent it in my note that I sent to you yesterday that I have about 4 goals And the biggest one being that, you know, lead and manage the reopening plan and continue to communicate. It's going to be continue to tweak it, hold people accountable, hold myself accountable, and move forward in a positive direction. That's number one. Working with Tracy to get all our policies up to date. And I want to add, I want to get all our CBAs up to date. There's a lot, even the CBAs that we need to update language and laws and things like that. And we've hired Lorraine Wilson to do a lot of that. Victoria's done a great job. I've really been pleased with how negotiations have gone with all our units, but there's a lot of language in our CBAs that are just archaic. It's not that they aren't financial, but they don't address current WACs and RCWs and those type of things. And that we need to, you know, I want, when I leave this place, I want our policies to be all up to date and our CBAs to be up to date. All the written work and that runs the day-to-day operations of this school district, any school district. I want them to be, you know, as current as humanly possible. I want to run a successful campaign for an EP&O levy, EP&O and capital projects levy. We'll talk about that. That will, you know, we talked about that earlier. And I also want to work with Jennifer and Assistant Superintendent Mon and create a template in conjunction with the board for our school improvement plans. So all of them will look maybe not exactly the same, but very similar. I think we can look at what other school districts or buildings are doing and make that template look sound. And I want to talk to the board probably more in an executive session about what you want the transition plan and when you want the transition plan for a new superintendent. When I took this job, it was a 1-year interim, even though at the time there was very short conversation about it being 2 years. I kind of knew that going in, and where the board and or the community wants me to be in that process. Would you like me to work for another year? Would you say, no, it's 2 years is good and we need to move forward? I obviously at my, you know, I haven't hid my age, and I haven't hid the fact that obviously I'm not going to be, I might be living in Sequim for 10, 20 years, but I'm not going to be working full time. You know, maybe that's conversations that the board needs to have over the course of the next few weeks or something. And, you know, a lot of that's going to depend on, you know, how this year transpires. I will tell you this up front. I think if I look at the issue, I think it's just the board, Tracy and I am comfortable with whatever the board or the community wants me to do. And quite simply, that means if you would like me to work for another year, I will do that. My hope would be that I could work with someone during the course of the year and transition that. If you say, hey, no, we want to do something and we want some more stability, I'll work my tail off for this year and work towards helping my successor out. It's a conversation that you need to have as a board. I will support you either way, but know that I really do not want to work as a full-time superintendent after June of 22.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that as well. I know, well, we definitely have some discussion, and we have some things that we need to outside of just that too. You know, because back to kind of Director Jeffrey's question as we were moving through the agenda here, just regarding board goals in particular as well, and you know, where do we stand, where do we want to go with some things. Not something we're going to get completely cleared up this evening, I don't think, but we should definitely set aside some time here in the very near future. The problem for me personally is those are just discussions that really I like having in person, and it's just tough having them here in a virtual setting like this. But you know, we'll have to make do with what we have to make do with. Director Pickens, did you have your hand up there?
Yeah, actually, well, I think it was left up from a previous time, but we're at this point in time. Is it the appropriate time to start more discussion about the superintendent goals, or?
I would think it would be, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to say I think that those priorities that you mentioned are certainly in line from my perspective. I guess the two things that come to mind would be you had mentioned the policies and getting those up to date, and maybe this would be in conjunction to that. But I think at any given time, I've heard several of the more board members, but I'll speak for myself, and other board members can speak. But I think almost everybody I've heard is kind of in approval of some sort of system that models something that was shared with us at the last WASDA conference, something similar to what Port Angeles has set up for a policy committee. And I think what that might sort of tie into that is getting something like that in place. And I'm not sure. I know we've been putting out a lot of fires and that sort of thing, but to really structure something off of that. And I guess the only other one that sort of comes to mind is even though one of the last goals did talk about bringing our district back together, I still think that there's still work to do. So I wouldn't mind seeing something that's still very specific to the climate and culture and still improving that. And I don't think the work is quite done yet. And I think that we should still focus on that as a priority. Not that it wouldn't be, but I just want to make sure that it's still just as much of a priority as it would be, and that through employee communication and climate and just and the overall culture that our school district has, and it's ongoing work, of course, but I want us to stay focused on that priority. So that's just my perspective.
I would agree with that, Director Pickens.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Larry.
Yeah, looking at some of these, like getting all our policies up to date, it would be somewhat easy to measure that as we check them all off. I would prefer to do that first before looking at a policy committee, because I'd hate for a committee right now to take those policies over and try to make sense of them until we've done something to try to clean it all up to make the job more manageable. Running a successful campaign for EP&O capital projects levy, that'd be real easy to see if that were accomplished or not, if it passes. And when it passes, check that box off. Creating a template for school improvement plans, I really applaud that, and that would be another one that would be easy to check off. We could, come up with a plan and then implement it, and that would be good. The climate and culture, I agree that we need to do that. And I think the managing the reopening process, yes, we need to do that. I have trouble of how do we evaluate that? How do we know how successful or that was done? But I think those two need to be in there. But just those are much more subjective kinds of evaluations, where the other two are more subjective. Either the levy passes or it doesn't, boom. And so I do like those. And then as far as I agree, we need to start the discussion about the future of the superintendency and how we are going to make that, how and when we're going to make that transition. And so I agree, we need to start at least maybe having some work sessions, maybe only an hour long, just to start talking about that. You know, what's the future of this district and how are we going to get there? But I like Dr. Clark's basic plans. I'd say the fewer the better and the more measurable the better, but there are a couple in there that are definitely ongoing concerns. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when you're looking at a SMART goal kind of layout there, you know, sometimes there are things that are definite necessary goals. How to actually measure them isn't always quite clear when we look at them, but they're definitely, you know, as you stated there, Larry, a couple of those goals are a little harder to measure, but yet we can't move forward without them. So for sure. Quick question, just, you know, while we're talking about the cultural thing and all that, Dr. Clark, who is handling evaluations on the school administrators?
Both Jennifer Mon and myself.
Okay. All right.
Well, and the principals of the buildings evaluate the assistant principals.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Yep. And yeah, nothing, you know, on them, just looking at that. Where are we at with our school administration? How are we progressing with that? You know, we've had a new one in the middle school last year, and we're moving forward, and you know, just making sure that as we work towards that transition stage for your potential replacement, at whatever point that is in the next couple of years, making sure that the team is in place and ready to you know, fall in line and work with that new person. Again, as we've said before, and you've said before, that, you know, chances of us landing somebody with 30 years of experience is going to be a little limited. So we're going to have school administrators that have more experience probably than our superintendent does, and just making sure that that's all set and ready for that time frame moving forward. Director Stauffer.
Yes, thank you. Really nothing more to add than what colleagues have stated. I do like that transition date and time. I mean, that's pretty set out there for us to look at. And also, we should always keep our strategic plan in the mirror, or not in the mirror, but in the windshield, because that was initially designed, I think, through 2022 or 23 type thing. And from there, it's all good goals and very workable. Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. Director Pickens, your hand back up.
Yeah, just just a little bit of follow up because Director Jeffries had mentioned just about the policies, and I appreciated what he said about needing to get kind of fix what's in place prior to getting any committee in place. And I guess my only concern with that is it is going to take a little bit of time to get things fixed to the level where we want them. So I'm wondering if that's something where we are able to kind of do both at the same time, so we don't delay, and maybe the scope of the committees is just as new policies need to be addressed. Maybe that's the work they're doing and not necessarily fixing the inconsistent ones, or however Dr. Clark thinks that work needs to be achieved or prioritized. But I do have concerns about waiting too long, because if we keep kicking that can down the road, before we know it, it might be a year or longer before we really think we have things fine tuned the way we want them. So that was just my concern there. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is just the measurability of the goals. I think is an interesting point, and I think really the only goal that I could see that wouldn't be measurable would maybe just be the lead and manage the reopening plan, because everything else I think does. I mean, even regarding climate and culture and those type of things, those can even be measured through surveys and that sort of thing. So I appreciate the focus on the measurement of the goals. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and with the transition piece and the reopening piece, it's we don't know what obstacles are going to be ahead as we move along, and they may, which in any kind of a goal, sometimes you have those things that impact them and change them and all. And everything. So let's see. Dr. Clark, did you have something to throw in there?
No, I don't. Have we heard from Director Koo?
Nope. I was going to jump over and ask him if he had anything to say, but I saw your hand.
No.
Wanted to make sure you didn't want to
I
respond.
haven't taken my hand down. Got to figure that out. I'm not the.
That's okay. Yeah.
No, thank you. Important stuff. Honestly, this is going to surprise and delight you. I don't have anything to say unique from what my colleagues have said, so I concur with much of the above.
All right. Director Jeffries, your hand is up again. We're still up. One of the
on the culture and climate, and we had our board self-assessment. We had some data from that we could use to see how we're doing. I know that's a little bit different. We had all the workshop surveys were done of the staff and community. I forget the name of that survey right now. It was just about the time that COVID hit.
Yes,
EEE. And we didn't really follow through with that. There were some definite concerns of certain schools where there seemed to be a certain amount of dissatisfaction. There seemed to be some student surveys that gave me, so I think something like that would be a good objective measure of how climate and culture is going and improving or not improving. So there would be a metric there that we could use to make sure that goal was continued on from the other goal, from previous goals. So I think we ought to follow through with those. That CEE survey and make greater use of it to see that's how we're accomplishing improving the culture and climate.
Yeah, absolutely, Larry. Yeah, it's a great point. Again, that unfortunately, again, is one of those things that just fell under the factor that, it was done. We got the results. We had the presentation. We looked at it, and we're wrapped up in all this reopening questions, and trying to find time to go back and look at those. And these are some things that we, as you were alluding to, say earlier with when we're talking about the board schedule, and some missing dates. Maybe it's not specifically an actual board meeting that we need. as much as maybe, we throw another specific focused workshop on something as that second meeting within that month that we could add. Not that we want to kick that all the way down to December, but just an example of how we could maybe utilize that time, not have a specific board meeting, but have a workshop focused on one of those items that we can, we need to address.
Yeah, I like that. I wish we had a thumbs up icon, to push.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and I have to say, it's been, I think for all of us, it's been, a tough several months, and, and not throwing the excuse out there, but in my day job, it's just been, it is what it is. And it's been pretty impactful, and getting time to even sometimes focus and concentrate and go, oh yeah, hey, maybe we should do a workshop on board goals, and trying to do a better job of for myself from the chair position to kind of manage that. So I just I know we're talking about the superintendent goals, but even from our goals and from the chair position, if you guys got some thoughts and all, want them, shoot them my way. Like, hey, we really should sit down and talk about this soon. I'm definitely, open to that as well. So, all right. So I think it sounds like pretty much, those goals that you've laid forward, with a couple of minor adjustments here and there on some thoughts, Dr. Clark, sound good. Your thoughts there?
Get those written up in a little bit more formal manner, and I'll present them a week from today.
Okay. Good deal. All right. Larry, did you put your hand back up?
Yeah, I would just add, whatever the goals we come up for the superintendent, I think the board needs to be ready to fully jump on board with those goals and do everything to make those goals happen, and Dr. Clark successful. Because if he's successful, then the district is successful, and that's what's best for the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good point. Okay. So next up, we have superintendent evaluation. And I guess this kind of leads back to what my statement just a little earlier. I know Dr. Clark's got some thoughts on this, but to be honest, from a chair position, this, would be something that I probably should be driving. And this has not really been in my focus area, which is, probably not the, no matter what. I know Dr. Clark is going to say, he's okay with that. Him and I have had this discussion, one-on-one, or even with Director Pickens. But even as an employee, he deserves our feedback in a more direct manner from an evaluation standpoint. And I know you got some thoughts on that, Dr. Clark.
Well, my thoughts are honestly more directed. I want some feedback. You're giving me feedback in an informal way, and I take that to heart, and I appreciate that. And obviously, an evaluation formalizes those comments, and I appreciate that as well. And I think it does all. It's a big part of a board's job to evaluate their superintendent. But what I would like to work with the board on is that evaluation instrument that we all create, we work towards, and that's more deemed, in my mind, for my successor than it is for me, because I just think that's a crucial component. And when you have an interim or when you have a short-term superintendent like myself, it kind of gets passed over because, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now, you're going to be hired. But I think it's crucial to the development and the support of whoever my successor is, that the board has an evaluation tool, instrument. They have the timelines down, 90 days, constant updates, because I don't know if it was Director Koo or Director Gibson, you're probably not going to hire a superintendent who has 30 years experience. I don't have 30 years experience as a superintendent, but I have 30 plus years as an administrator. And I think that, you know, with my two predecessors, who were both experienced administrators but not experienced superintendents, I think that the initial feedback and the constant, you know, kind of monitoring slash mentoring, because we're going to have, and we'll have a little, all of you will have a few more years under your belt as board members too. And the expectations and the candor that you have with me needs to continue with whoever succeeds me. And that, you know, there's been a few times that, hey, Dr. Clark, you need to do this, and you've kind of called out a couple of situations, and I appreciate that. While I do have X number of years experience, I still have a lot of room to grow, and I'm comfortable with that. But that's what I'm really looking at, and maybe I would suggest that when we attend WASDA, the November WASDA virtually, that a couple of the board members take on. There's always multiple breakout sessions in regards to superintendent evaluation. And they have some great points, and to bring in, to listen to how the successful school districts and the successful boards are managing and evaluating their superintendent.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate that, because, you know, I know at the last WASDA conference I had attended, and I think Director Koo was in that one with me too, one with where they talked about the board or superintendent evaluation. Because I just, from our experience in the past, and I know WASDA has a process, and they have their layout and everything, and just from my experience in participating, and I know we've got a couple other board members that were part of that as well. It, for me, was just very cumbersome and not very laid out, and I think it was a hindrance in some ways to just go through that as well. So, you know, I think it'd be a great idea for us to put something together with your experience as well. I mean, I'm sure you've been, you know, in your years in both administration and superintendent, you've been evaluated under different methods, and, you know, what may be good practices that have also worked that you felt were more valuable to you from the board than say, you know, just laying it out there in that kind of format. Director Koo.
Thank you, sir. You know, an observation, and this is not to dog on our board at all, but in the time that I've been on it, I don't think we've done superintendent performance reviews with excellence. And there's been a few iterations over the years too. And I don't know if you were referencing this directly, but I agree that the kind of the WASDA template, if you will, at least off the shelf, is remarkably cumbersome and very difficult to quantify. So I would value not only, and there's a part of me, I mean, any of us need, you know, additional activity, like a hole in the head right now, but it is a core responsibility of this board, and I would advocate for some iteration of a review solely for that reason. But I also recognize the unique learning opportunity we have as a board with Dr. Clark, and going through a review process, and one that is arguably kind of shifted as he's moved from interim to permanent, yet with a finite horizon. Kind of a unique situation there. So once again, I think the paradigm has shifted, and I'd like to work as a board, and I'm volunteering to assist with this, as an atonement for, my chairmanship in the past, perhaps, to help with that process as I can, Director Gibson. And I would advocate that we do commit some time, energy, and effort to it. And in recognition of Dr. Clark, even though he is enjoying hopefully the twilight of a long and successful career, good feedback and evaluation too that he can add to his portfolio to show his grandkids one day.
Yep. Yeah. Gather around, kids, and let's look at my evaluations. All right. We got a few hands up. Director Jeffries, I think you were first.
I don't know if I was first or not, but in the spirit of policy, our policy 1630 says we should have confidential conferences with the board members. This is with the evaluation of the superintendent. Confidential conferences with the board members on no less than 3 occasions each year. So I'd like to, we ought to probably schedule those out and as soon as we can, and get those on the books and follow through and have those formative kind of conferences to with the superintendent along the way, so we can evaluate how the progress and how things are going and what we can do to help him out.
Great. That's perfect. Thanks.
Tracy's pulling.
Yep,
Tracy's
there you
pulling
go.
it up there.
Thank you, Larry. Yep. So let's. So maybe we'll talk about this, but for agenda setting on our next agenda meeting, or we'll put this on the agenda and to set a date for in the very near future. So let's make this an agenda item for our next board meeting. Director Stauffer.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to put a plug back in for WASDA under their leadership tab, and it shows the evaluation model for standards-based, and then the other one is outcomes-based. And I would submit that we really didn't dig into those, either or of them, over time. There has been a lot of work done by the leadership group of WASDA, and where they have vetted both of these through WASA, which is the Superintendent Association. And so I would just encourage colleagues to take a look at what's in there now, and before we just shut the door on it, but encourage all to look at what those two models offer, and then we go from there. But thank you.
Sure. Thanks. Thank you, Jim. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts on that?
The only thing that I add to that, and I appreciated all the conversation, I think the biggest thing in any evaluative piece for a new superintendent, especially if in fact it ends up being a rookie superintendent, is just constant feedback that you set aside every 20 minutes, every third board meeting or fourth board meeting, or maybe you do it at agenda setting where you just say, hey, and just constant feedback in the sense of, hey, we really liked what you did here, here, and here, but you could have had a little bit more finesse there. And I still need that. I still want to know that. I just don't need it quite as often as a new superintendent. That's the biggest thing, and communicate.
Yeah.
And that's what gets you caught up and all those things. So I will work with the board and want to hear all your feedback. So thank you.
Yeah. And yeah, and it's exactly. That's what I said in my kind of late point in the first part was, we could all be better at communicating. Okay. All right. Next up, we have the EP&O.
I just want to talk. It's the summer. Once we get on board, I have a brief meeting tomorrow, but it's my goal at the first, I got to look at the board, the second board meeting in September to have a package that outlines everything we want to accomplish, to put it before the board, let you all critique it, say, hey, we like the fact that you're addressing this. It's got a 3-year spending plan, this, and that. I want the board to critique that. And then from there, I take it out in the community for them to critique it. But I think the second board meeting in September is the 21st. And so that's what I wanted to share with you. I've worked with some estimating companies and I have another meeting later this week, and that's my goal, to put forth the plan.
Sounds good. Look forward to seeing that. Yeah. I know we're all ready to move forward and get something accomplished. All right. Last item. Student representative goals and scholarship.
Okay, just real quick, we Director Jeffries, Director Pickens, and I, along with Olivia, interviewed 4 prospective student board members over the last week and a half. We offered the position to a candidate, and she has accepted. I've been able to speak with 2 of the 3 board members, or excuse me, prospective student reps who were not selected. I haven't spoken to the 3rd. She hasn't returned my call. If she doesn't call me by the end of sometime tomorrow, I'm going to send her an email or a text. I don't want to do that. They all interviewed well. I was impressed. And I'll let Director Pickens and Director Jeffries speak to that. I feel uncomfortable making the announcement until I've personally spoke to all 3 of the candidates who were not selected.
Oh, man. Okay. All right, Director. Yeah, I'd love to hear from Director Pickens or Jeffries just on the experience and how it went.
Yeah,
this
just
is Go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead, Director Jeffries, please.
I was going to say it was a very uplifting experience. I enjoyed it very much. I enjoyed talking to the 4 individuals. I think we got, there's some strong potential leadership within the student body, which is great. We picked one of them, and I feel pretty good about that pick. But it was overall a good process, and we had, thanks to Tracy, So basically, you know, herded us all together at one time at one place so we could have virtual meetings when we were available, and it worked out pretty well. There were a couple of technical glitches, but you know, those were resolved. And I really appreciate Olivia's input to the whole process. She was very good and really helped us out, I think, in many ways. Thank you.
Awesome, Eric.
Yeah, just everything Director Jeffrey said. It was very impressed with all 4 candidates. I think hopefully they you know all or the remaining 3 will still hopefully continue to pursue some different leadership roles, representation roles, because I think they were all phenomenal, and I appreciated the process, and I'm happy, looking forward to the announcement.
All right. Director Cood, you got your hand up over there?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Just I can't wait to hear who we're gonna be working with. And obviously, Director Gibson and I have a special place in our heart for this class. So for perhaps that reason, we're a little more excited than average. One question: I don't know if this is if there's any problems with this, but push back if so. Would it be possible at the appropriate time to see the applications from all of the candidates?
That would be a board decision.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll defer to the chair, but you know, if you have objections, that's totally fine, and certainly not. I'm not looking to get intervene in the decision that was made by any means. But I'm just so impressed with these students. I think Director Stauffer and I, you know, we selected a student a couple of years ago, and we made the best choice, and I don't regret that at all. But I was also just floored with some of the quality of the candidates that were there, and noted that was a hard decision to make. And so just for the interest of knowing more about you know, some of the dynamic students in our district, that would be the selfish motivation there. But like I said, no worries if not.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess, you know, to the point of a couple of whoever had said it also, that you know, I know that they're, and I don't know if they're open still or not. Director Stauffer may know, you know, that the chamber's looking for a representative. I think City Council as well. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yes, for the chamber, we do have one, and it's actually Eric's daughter.
Yeah.
And then probably Olivia as the second one, but we haven't. I'll find out tomorrow in that chamber executive meeting. And then I do believe the City Council, the League of Women Voters, and SEF, but that would be SEF as Larry's swim lane, are looking for student reps also.
Yes.
Eric, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting about your daughter's grade.
Yeah.
Foot and mouth. My apologies.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's in that club too. And I told her she couldn't be a student board rep, so she pursued the chamber instead.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Great. Well, yeah, definitely look forward to that announcement, and thank you both for participating in that. You know, it's appreciate your help with that, and I know that we've got, I just knowing some of the candidates that were there already, just on a personal note, we're gonna have a good representative, and I know y'all chose somebody. I'm sure it was a tough decision, for sure. Okay. I think we are. I think we made it.
To talk about the scholarship.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yes. That's on the end. Yeah.
You got that policy, Tracy? I do have one very quick thing to bring up at the end.
Okay. All right, so we've got, and this, what is this one here?
There's, Larry, you want to, Director Jeffries, do you
Yeah.
want to address
Yeah.
this?
Well, I guess, because I was following my policy readings, and we have the policy, well, it's a procedure, actually, 1250P, where that's where the $500 scholarship, 0.25 credit, service credit, or possibly a $500 scholarship may be provided to a student's post-secondary school of choice at the end of the 2-year term.
Mhm.
And the concern whether that's a violation of the gifting laws or not. And we have another procedure, 3515, which for student incentives, award prizes, the district will consider any prize or award amount equal to or less than 50. So there we have a kind of a conflict between $500 scholarship and a max of $50. I did try my hand at writing a draft, and I sent it in. And afterwards, I said, well, I could have made that simpler, trying to, basically rewording getting rid of the $500 scholarship wording and adding the student incentive wording of up to $50. Just trying to keep us out of trouble with the gifting laws and internally consistent with our policies. And I do want to mention one other thing. All 4 students were discussed possible projects that they wanted to do based on Olivia and Peyton, their year-end review, how they wanted to get more involved and possibly come up with projects. Because in talking to students around the other student reps around the state, they all seem to have projects that they were. I just wanted to alert the board that all 4 candidates plus Olivia talked about projects. But
Okay,
again, on my my feeble attempt at writing a draft policy, I don't envy the people that have to try to write those.
Right. Okay. Well, maybe this is something we can
talk about it at
But, yeah.
our next work session.
next work session or board meeting?
I would say work session.
Work session. Okay. All right. Okay, Director Koo.
Okay, I don't want to jeopardize our timeline here because
Yep,
we're
that's
rocking
okay.
it.
Yeah.
Just a clarifying question, and maybe this is to punt to the next meeting. The language that we just saw there, does it fix the outstanding issue of past owed scholarships, or is that still an item that needs to be addressed?
My gut feeling is that whatever policy we create or whatever we do, it's moving forward. I don't think we can make anything retroactive. I think we have a tough time with that. That's my take on it. Others might think differently, but that's my take.
Okay, yeah, and I would recognize that. I guess only a reinterpretation would affect the retro. So, okay, thank you. Look forward to discussing.
Okay. Director Stoffer.
Yes, I'll just hold till we discuss it at the next meeting.
Okay. And
Thank
Director Jeffries, anything to add? Nope. All right.
Okay, I have one thing to add, and it's kind of one of those things that, again, got put on the back burner. And I think it's just something that I would like to ask. I met with some longtime SQUIM grads right before the COVID epidemic, and they have some money raised, and they would like to rename or name the football field in honor of Myron Tetrud. And they have some signatures, and they've done that. And Phyllis Meyer, who was on this conference call early on, I told her I would bring it up. But what I would like to do is to tell her that at the next live meeting we have, it will be on the agenda.
Yeah, I would definitely think that'd be, yeah, I would support that from a agenda setting standpoint for sure.
By live meeting, do you mean in the next?
Oh, you mean live in person?
Yes,
Okay, I
that's
gotcha.
what I meant. Thank you for the clarification, Director Pickens.
Yeah, gotcha.
Because I think it's something that there's a number of, I don't know, it's Alumni Association, Booster Club. There's a lot of people that are interested in that. And quite frankly, while I don't know this, there could be others who would oppose it. I think this is, I know when you go after naming things, not 9 times out of 10, there's a controversy. None of us are saints, and we all have these things, and everyone has an idea. I don't know if any of you all were around when they named the gym after Rick Capps, and I'm not here to evaluate that it was good, bad, or indifferent, but I'm told it went fairly well, but that doesn't always happen.
Right, yeah. Jim, go ahead.
Yes, I think Tracy is probably pulling up the policy, but for my colleagues, between now and our future type meeting, we should both look at policy 6970 and then the procedure for that for naming facilities. And in the spirit of keeping us on track with policies, it's in there of what is the next steps type thing. And yes, I've had some conversations from, I think we'll call both sides of the desire in the community out there, but we need to stay off our policy also. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that up, Jim. Appreciate that. Larry, go ahead. I think we cut you off earlier.
No, good meeting. My hand was up. Should have taken it down. I'll just congratulate you and Eric on a good meeting, and Dr. Clark.
Thank you.
All right, good deal. Okay.
Yeah, we finished on time there, Chief.
Yeah, all righty. Awesome. And
Okay.
just as my computer just popped up and said battery is running low.
Okay. Hey, and I have meetings tomorrow night. Can we do agenda setting electronically?
I'm good with that. Yeah.
Eric?
Yeah, that works.
Well, Tracy will send you something, then I'll give you a call.
Okay.
Okay?
That'll work. Yep.
Okay.
Sounds
Thanks.
good. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate all the input and everything today, and let everyone get on with their evening, and good meeting.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, boss.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Goodbye.